Rossi has always had a natural passion for speed, and when combined with an equally natural curiosity about how to make things go even faster, it proved to be a devastating combination. He was immensely curious, but kids are like that, Graziano would later say. He really enjoyed accomplishing very difficult tasks. But kids also do that. Every kid has a talent, but sometimes they don't know they have it. Or maybe they don't know for what they have a gift. Valentino had a big talent. Fathers make their kids play, first of all with the toys they like themselves. Valentino developed a great passion for speed. I think it's difficult not to become passionate about the game of speed. Valentino had talent. He enjoyed racing, and this became his life. But finance was also important in Rossi's decision to switch four wheels for two. Because of his age, he would have to move up to the 100cc category in the National Go-Kart Championship in 1992. He'd been competing in the 60cc class up to that point, and that was going to cost 100,000 lira, around £40,000, for a full season. Knowing that this was going to be a huge stretch for his mother and father, it played a big part in Rossi's decision to ditch karts and focus on the much cheaper sport of mini-moto racing. To me, it wasn't hard to decide, Valentino wrote in his 2005 autobiography, What If I Had Never Tried It? My ideas were clear. I could feel the passion for motorbikes growing. But he did also admit that money was an issue. Motorbikes were not my second choice. But doubts over money only contributed to my choice, but they were not the decisive factor. While Graziano and Stefania both lived comfortably enough, partly due to Graziano's thriftiness with money, neither was fabulously wealthy. And so, in the winter of 1992, after he had won the regional Minimoto Championship, Rossi made his decision, suddenly asking his father as they drove between Cattolica and Tavullia, "Why don't we race motorbikes?" By this, Rossi meant full-sized motorbikes, not minimotos. Because in 1993, he would turn 14 and finally be old enough to race them. That would still be much cheaper than racing on four wheels, and the path might even be smoothed over thanks to Graziano's extensive contacts in the motorcycling world. To the teenage Rossi, it made perfect sense. But it's not difficult to imagine Graziano's reaction. As a former top-level bike racer himself, he must have been proud that his son had chosen to follow in his footsteps. But the flip side is that every bike racer is all too well aware of the dangers the sport involves. Valentino's decision might prove to be a poisoned chalice. Should he be encouraged? It was difficult for Mum, too. She had accompanied her husband to motorcycle races in an era when fatalities were all too commonplace, before the advent of modern-day safety measures. She knew what could happen. But she also knew her son was careful, and not nearly as devil-may-care as Graziano had been, so she supported Valentino in his decision. Niall Mackenzie is a former 500cc Grand Prix rider and triple British Superbike champion, whose sons, Taylor and Taron, have both won British titles. As a parent, he remembers the moral dilemma he faced when encouraging his children to ride. When kids start riding mini-moto bikes, they can ride around all day and fall off as often as they like and never get hurt. Great fun. But then they get a taste for it and want a bit more, and then, before you know it, you're standing at a pit wall by the side of a proper big racetrack, and your kids are going past really fast on proper race bikes. That's when Niall and his wife wondered what the hell they had done. But by that point, he continues, it's too late. You can't tell them they're not allowed to do it anymore. We wondered if we'd done the right thing. That's when I realized that, as parents, we're actually hardwired to look after our kids, not to give them dangerous things to do. That's when we had the really serious conversation with the boys about the dangers of the sport, and I'm sure Graziano did the same thing with Valentino. As long as they're fully aware of the dangers and fully accept them, then all you can do is to try to make sure they're as safe as they can be. All of us racers know parents who've lost their kids to racing, so we know it's not a game. The litmus test for Rossi's proposed career in bike racing would come at Misano, the international circuit that lies just a few miles from Tavullia, and which still features on the MotoGP calendar today. Valentino's plan was to borrow a 125cc Aprilia Futura road bike from a friend and see if he had any natural talent for riding proper-sized motorcycles. Graziano agreed this was a wise course of action, and the pair arranged to attend a public track day in November of 1992. It turned out to be a day that would change the face of motorcycle racing forever and would lead to the greatest career the sport has ever witnessed.